Welcome to the first day of the NBA season. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. Only 3 games on tap tonight, but certainly, there is a shortage of plays, but there's no shortage of good plays because at least we have a couple decent matchups. We got some guys that are kind of obvious plays at their respective position. So we're going to run down our favorite plays at each position, give you the comparisons, FanDuel to DraftKings pricing as well. So we'll start off here, of course, at point guard, where Steph Curry got to be your top option. He's $10,400 on FanDuel, $9,500 on DraftKings. Relatively, he's $1,700 more than the next guy on DraftKings, 19 or $2,100 more than the next guy on FanDuel. So slightly better value on DraftKings, it seems, but I mean, with these other options, you got Derrick Rose, who's going to probably be somewhat limited. Reggie Jackson, who, a less than ideal matchup. He's going to be locked into minutes, but nowhere near the type of floor or ceiling as Curry. So, I mean, for me, and I think you will agree as well, Steph Curry, you just go ahead and lock him in tonight, and then you make your tough decisions elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, he's such an easy play, especially on a 3-game slate. I mean, you have to go with him, regardless, GPP cash. I'm playing him. I mean, the options lower are just not good enough for me. The ceiling's not high enough, especially the matchup with Jackson and Teague, who I think are both decent defenders as well, squaring off against each other. So plenty of value to get Curry in the lineup.
Yeah, and speaking of value, Mo Williams going to be a really popular play. Obviously, with Kyrie Irving out, $6,000 on FanDuel, $4,900 on DraftKings. Nice value play there. And this one, it's not that he's the slam dunk obvious play that Curry is because he's a great player, but it's just an opportunity thing. There's a 3-game slate. He's going to be thrust into a bigger role, at least for the foreseeable future. So, I mean, Mo Williams, if you're playing cash games, it just kind of makes sense to go ahead and go Curry, Mo Williams, lock that in because, like you said on the podcast earlier, he's not going to kill you. He's probably not going to help you a lot either way because he's probably going to be the highest owned player, I would imagine, really at any position because of his price. So Mo Williams, I guess in GPPs, he's a reasonable fade. Maybe go with someone else, but I think in cash games you kind of have to.
Yeah. I mean, we were both talking about Nate Robinson as well, minimum price on both sites there. I think if you do want to fade Mo Williams and you need that little extra cash, I think Robinson's a pretty solid play for minutes tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Tyreek Evans, Norris Cole, both those guys out, so you're going to have minutes to go around, and he's been productive with his minutes when he sees the court, regardless of what team he's on, because who knows what team he'll be on here in a couple months also. But I love Nate Robinson, and he, like you said, it's low risk kind of guy because he's just not going to cost you anything min salary. So outside of those guys, if you're looking for some GPP, some deep plays, I like Sean Livingston as an option. He's $3,400 on DraftKings, and on FanDuel he's $4,000. He's the guy who has played alongside Curry at times as the two. We've also seen him, kind of run the offense through him in the second unit. He and Mo Spates see a lot of the usage. So I don't mind Livingston as like a GPP swerve, but most nights this isn't a guy I'd necessarily be looking at. One more guy I guess we could throw out there. Aaron Brooks, if we're going to have Derrick Rose with his minutes monitored, we don't really know what that means. Nobody really seems to know what that means. So maybe he plays 28 minutes, maybe he plays 25. Probably depends on the game flow a little bit, but you can see maybe an increase in minutes for Brooks there, and he's nice and cheap on both sites as well.
Yeah, I don't mind the Brooks play there.
All right, shooting guard. This is another one where we're going to go ahead and give you your obvious play. You go ahead and click that plus button, get him in there, and then you worry about the rest. Especially on FanDuel. Jimmy Butler, $7,600 on DraftKings, $7,500 on FanDuel. I mean, led the NBA in minutes played last season. He contributes in every category. I think he was top 15 in, steals, minutes, points, and I feel like there was one more stat. But either way, the guy just does everything. He fills up the stat sheet. You know he's going to play 35-plus minutes, probably close to 40 if it's a close game, and it should be. It's the closest point spread on the day. So Jimmy Butler, your no-brainer play there once again.
Yeah, easy play. And I think if you do want to swerve off Butler, it's Klay Thompson, obviously, just for a bit cheaper, hoping possibly it's a Klay Thompson night because that is always possible. I remember last year, opening night, Thompson went off for a big game, and Curry kind of had an average game there, but I doubt that's the case tonight. Both should put up points, but give me Jimmy Butler as the top play.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He's a nice swerve, and I mean, if you could find a way to fit both in, I mean, it's not a bad option, but at the same time, you're going to be wanting another big name here we're going to talk about in a minute, so going to be tough to do. Other options at shooting guard, I know a guy that you mentioned earlier that you really like, Eric Gordon. He's $5,200 on FanDuel. He's got a nice cheap price tag of the same exact price on DraftKings there. And like we mentioned, backcourt injuries to this New Orleans team. It's not an ideal matchup because Golden State is a good defensive team, but this is by far the highest total. So Eric Gordon going to be forced into 35-plus minutes. It just makes sense to go ahead and target him as well.
Yeah, I mean, on a full slate, you're probably not looking Gordon's way. But tonight, I think you kind of have to. He's going to get, a good usage rate there when Anthony Davis isn't just powering home in the paint. But, I mean, Gordon, 5,200, you can't go wrong with that. You're going to play a ton of minutes. And guys in that price range, I just can't get behind. I've never been a big Korver fan. I just feel like it's a risk night in and night out with him. And as far as J.R. Smith, Caldwell Pope, I think you're on the same boat there. So Gordon, safe play in that price range.
Yeah, especially on DK. I mean, he's an efficient three-point shooter, so you get that three-point bonus there. Not a bad option for you. And then Kent Bay's more likely to get the start. He's minimum salary on DraftKings. He's $3,700 on FanDuel, so he makes for another interesting option there at shooting guard. If you just need a filler, like not a guy that I expect big things out of, so maybe not a GPP guy, but cash game filler, he kind of makes sense there as well. All right, small forward here. If you want to pay for LeBron James, I think he's more of a tournament option for me tonight. I'd rather have Curry and Davis in my cash games, but it's not that he's a bad play by any means. And unfortunately for him, there's no Mike Dunleavy to pick on at small forward there. Not that he'd likely see a ton of time on Dunleavy anyway, but he's going to see a lot of Jimmy Butler, so it's not a great matchup for him. As we know, Butler, a great defender, and no one's going to stop LeBron James, but he has played him tough in the past. So I'm certainly not saying he's going to get shut down, but he's a guy that I think, especially with the injury concerns, maybe not 100%. They say he's good to go, but that doesn't mean he's completely healthy. So I think I'll wait and see with LeBron, especially at his FanDuel price of $11,000. I'll kind of pay down and just move on from there.
Yeah, I can't see throwing him in cash games as well. DK 9,800. I mean, I guess with all the value plays there, you could work him into a lineup with maybe Davis or Curry. Obviously pivoting from one of the two stars there. Looking down at value, we've been on Marcus Morris there. I think that's going to be the good value play for just 4,500 on DK there, and 5,700. You're not really hurting anything there. So, small forward, ugly night tonight.
Yeah, small forward is not pretty tonight. I mean, you could look at a guy like Andre Iguodala at 4,300 on DraftKings and 4,300 also on FanDuel. But I mean, he's another one of those guys that, minutes don't necessarily equal production for him. He's a guy that's out there to be a defender, not necessarily a guy that's going to take a lot of shots. But then again, I mean, you got to consider that he's not going to have a tough matchup at all. There's no LeBron James for him to have to worry about. No one like that. So we could see it, but he's a GPP play only for me because he just has such a low floor. And then of course Nikola Hirotic, if you want to call him that. He's got a ton of nicknames now, but the guy does it all. If you haven't watched this guy play, he's one of my favorite guys to watch play. I mean, moves incredible incredible movement without the ball. The guy can rebound, he can shoot threes, he can play in the post. The guy does everything. Going to be a really popular play, I would imagine, tonight, as he should be. He's a power forward on DraftKings at 6,400, but crazy cheap 5,500 small forward on FanDuel. I think he's another one of those must plays for me on this short slate, especially with that small forward eligibility on FanDuel. DraftKings is a different story a little bit, but on FanDuel, I think you just got to lock him in.
Definitely.
And then that kind of moves us over to power forward, where kind of already mentioned Mirotic there, but Anthony Davis, $10,400 on DraftKings. He's $11,200 on FanDuel. He's going to cost you a pretty penny, but I mean, this guy already has monster usage. He's locked into huge minutes. You mentioned on the other podcast he's started working on his three-point shot as well. I mean, it's terrifying to think of this upside, and it would be terrifying to me to make rosters without him tonight, because if you're only going to pay for one star, if for some reason you can't get two, you should be able to get two. But I mean, it's got to be Anthony Davis tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he's dominated Golden State in the past. I know they're a pretty good defensive team, but I mean, the guy's simply just matchup proof. I mean, especially if Draymond Green's at the 4 there. I mean, that's a pretty good size difference for me, and it'll just be unfair to watch. Moving down, I think Paul Millsap's kind of one of my favorite GPP plays because no one's talking about him, and this is a guy who can fill the stat sheet. just as well as anyone else on the slate. I mean, he's a pretty good defender. I guess you can call him a triple-double threat because he can facilitate the offense every now and then. So 7,700 on DK, not a bad price. And I think there's a pretty difference from Davis and Pau Gasol, Green, Millsap, that if you want to pay up for two of those guys and fade Davis, it's a pretty good tournament move.
Yeah, and like you said with Millsap, of course, DraftKings has those double-double and triple-double bonuses. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not going to say he's a lock to get a double-double, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised to see a 20 and 12 type of line from him tonight. So I like him a lot as a power forward. Well, there's not a lot of options. I think Kevin Love, as he usually is a guy that's going to go, kind of under the radar. Another one of those guys that doesn't have a great floor, but especially with Kyrie Irving out, there's more to go around. Not a great matchup against Chicago, but Kevin Love can stretch the floor, and he's going to be still a pretty tough cover for the Chicago big men for that reason alone. So, other options at power forward, there's really not much to like as far as cheap guys. I don't think that power forward is the spot where you're going to want to pay down. You could look at Ersan Ilyasova. He's definitely GPP only for me. 5,700 on DraftKings, and on FanDuel he's 5,200. He's an okay option there, but not a guy that I'm rushing out to play any more than I have to.
No, I'm sure he's probably on a lot of people's never again lists.
Yeah.
He's burned a lot of people.
He's that guy that'll go for 40 fantasy points when you don't play him. Yep. Then you play him to chase the points, and he plays 20 minutes and goes 0 for 6 and doesn't get a single rebound. So, yeah, his floor is about as low as mine is tonight and other nights. At center, if you're going to be paying up for some guys, you're probably not going to be able to afford the Andre Drummonds of the world, but he's got to be your top option despite a tough matchup because he does have size. Really, his only concern, as always, is the fact that he's foul prone. But if he can stay out of foul trouble, I mean, the sky's the limit with this guy. He's a 20-20 upside type of play. I mean, a near mortal lock for a double-double if he plays, full complement of minutes tonight. So $8,200 on DraftKings for him. He's $9,000 on FanDuel. I like him a lot more on DraftKings because of that bonus and the fact that he's cheaper. But he's going to be tough to fit if you're paying for a couple of these other guys as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really tough squeeze. I think center's actually a really tough position tonight because you're looking at these value plays here, and they're all 25-minute guys with maybe a little bit lower upside than we want. Looking at guys like Mozgov and Splitter, I can't see anyone over that. I mean, we talked about Noah, but his price is just a little bit too high for an uncertainty at minutes there that we're worried about.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those situations. I mean, you could play him in a GPP because he certainly can put up points in a hurry, but like you said, if you're not guaranteed to get the minutes with these guys, which is unfortunate. So it's one guy you could look at as a deep GPP play is Anderson Varejao because he's a hustle guy. Missed a lot of last season with that injury, and this is a guy that could put up points and rebounds quickly. I mean, he's not the best player. That's the reason why he's a backup. But I mean, on a 3-game slate, you gotta make your stand somewhere. And if you save the money with him and your GPPs, I don't mind going that way a little bit. But I think in cash games it'll probably be Mozgov just because he's cheap. He's going to get those 25 minutes, and it allows you to pay up elsewhere. But that's probably the one I'm looking at. I think you are too, right?
Yep.
All right, that'll wrap things up for the 3-game slate here. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out the rest of our great NBA content at dailyfantasycafe.com.